Hello and welcome to today's webinar from Continuent, where we're going to be discussing Multimaster MySQL using Tungsten Clustering. And my name is Chris Parker and I'm the Director of Professional Services for EMEA and APAC. So our agenda for today's webinar is split into 3 sections and should last no more than around 30 minutes. First, we will take a look at one of our long-standing customers and look at their use case. We'll then have an overview of Continuent solutions and the benefits. And finally, we'll wrap up with a Q&A. So before we start, this webinar is being recorded and we'll be posting it online after the session so that you can rewatch on demand. In addition, a copy of the slides are available to download as a PDF right now from the GoToWebinar control panel. As I mentioned, we will have a Q&A section at the end, so please do feel free to post your questions in the control panel at any time during the session. We'll cover them at the end. If I don't get to answer all of them, we'll post the responses after the session. I also have a couple of colleagues on the line with me who will be answering questions in the background as well in case we don't get to cover everything. Okay, let's begin. So over the next few slides, I aim to provide enough high-level information to cover the following goals. As we look at our customer's use case, you'll see a very popular deployment topology, what we refer to as multi-site, multi-master, leveraging some of the more advanced features of our clustering solution, such as geographically distributed data, fast local response time for both reads and writes, full ACID compliance, full HADR capabilities, and with, as the name suggests, multi-site, multi-master, we're able to write in both locations and have that data asynchronously transferred between clusters. Over the coming few weeks, you'll see invitations for a number of webinars covering a number of use cases, all achievable with Tungsten Clustering. These are all listed here. Today's topic is highlighted. If you are interested in the other use cases, please watch out for email invitations over the coming weeks or head to our website at continuent.com, where you can watch the previously broadcast sessions as well. So today's use case centers around one of Continuent's longest standing customers, NewVoiceMedia. NewVoiceMedia, recently acquired by Vonage, they provide cloud-based call center software, as it says here on the slide, providing exceptional customer experiences and connecting hundreds of thousands of clients globally. Additionally, NewVoiceMedia's technology, they're 100% cloud-based and device agnostic for their telephony infrastructure. So with constant high demand for their services, NewVoiceMedia needed a solution that keeps the data local to their customer, avoiding potential long WAN latencies while still offering the full resilience and high availability. There wasn't the need for them to have the data geographically distributed. By that I mean customers in the US don't need to access or have their data in Asia and vice versa, but they did need that level of resiliency within their own region. They needed fast local response times to access the data, and also very important was the ability to load balance their reads and their writes. They also needed a way to be able to handle planned maintenance windows and also survive infrastructure problems that perhaps were outside of their control. After all, they're in the cloud, and as we know, things happen with your cloud infrastructure that you don't sometimes have control over. So what did they do? Well, to solve the challenges, NewVoiceMedia deployed Tungsten Clustering in a regional multi-site, multi-master topology. So they have 3 distinct customer serving regions. They have the US, they have Europe, and they have Asia. Within each region, they placed 2 3-node clusters configured as multi-master. So we can see here on the screen, we have the US, 2 clusters with the bidirectional replication going between the 2. These green nodes represent the masters, the write nodes, so all data was going into the green nodes on either cluster at any time and replicated across. The blue nodes representing the slaves that could serve the reads. So if we take this US as an example, in NewVoiceMedia's case, they have 1 cluster on the west coast of the States and the other is on the east coast. So they have that full regional distribution across the US. Clients can write to each cluster, the data is asynchronously routed to the others, as I've mentioned. Also in each region, NewVoiceMedia can now move clients between each of the active clusters. So although it is configured as multi-site, multi-master, they can control which clients write into which cluster. And they optionally choose to have all clients writing into one cluster. And then when they need to do maintenance or they need to isolate a region, they can move those clients across to the other, and they can do all of this because it's multi-site, multi-master. Those write nodes are open and available to write straight away, so they can do this independently without interrupting services or a need for any complicated architectural reconfigurations. The connectors that the cluster come with that we often refer to as the intelligent proxy. So they use the connector layer, and then on top of that they have their own HA proxy layer, so they can very, very easily move their client connections around their regions seamlessly. Furthermore, within each cluster, we are fully automated in that we can fail over automatically. So should this master node here go down for any reason, we will automatically promote one of the two slaves as the new master. And that's all, again, done automatic. The manager process handle it, and the connector layer, the intelligent proxy layer, that information from the manager is communicated back to that layer, so client connections can then automatically reroute down to the new master. So it enables them to have that continuous operation, zero to minimal interruption, and yeah, it just keeps their services running and keeps the performance that they need. So what benefits? Obviously, some of this I've repeated, and I'll repeat again, and it's very important to cover. The use of the multi-site, multi-master provided that low latency, fast access to the data, the connector layer providing the read-write splitting, and the powerful replicator delivering sub-second replication. And that's not just locally within the cluster, but they achieve that sub-second replication across regions as well. This has become something that NewVoiceMedia rely on heavily. It's very important that their data is accurate and up to date and delivered as quickly as possible to their clients. The zero downtime capabilities of the cluster has allowed them to handle their planned and their unplanned outages by having the ability to quickly and easily move the master as well. So whilst we have the automatic failover, you are able to go in and say, I want to move my master, and issue a command to move your master. And as I've already said, they're using multi-site, multi-master, so each cluster is writable, so they can easily and quickly move their clients from one region to the other without having to promote a new master or change any of their connectivity layer. Okay, let's just take a quick look at some of our solutions, and let's talk about our journey and how we got to where we are today. We consider ourselves the MySQL availability company, and with the one single clustering product that we have in our replicator product, we have the ability to provide some pretty significant configurations in a variety of scenarios to pretty much cater for most business challenges. The key to that is enabling the business critical application to run globally with zero downtime maintenance, be that as a result of planned or unplanned outages. So we keep you running continuously. Our solutions sit happily in the cloud. We sit on-premise, or we have a hybrid mix of the two. And we've got an excellent team of engineers who are continually working on improvements and new features to take advantage of these ever-changing technologies. Our customers, they cover a vast array of industries, such as NewVoiceMedia that we've discussed today, that sit in the cloud telecoms arena. Then we have e-commerce customers, finance customers, gaming companies, and many others. Last but not least, keeping all of our customers keeping them happy is key to our business, and we hope that is reflected in the outstanding 24/7 support that we also provide. Continuent as a company, we've been around for approximately 15 years. It's been an interesting journey, many challenges along the way. Many of you may or may not be aware that back in 2014, we were acquired by VMware to incorporate our solutions into their own DBaaS, or Database as a Service offering for their vCloud Air. It was a short stay. In 2016, VMware's strategy changed and we spun off and returned to being an independent company, or new Continuent that we are today. We have some really exciting things coming up on our own roadmap this year with the launch of our own cloud offering, Tungsten Cloud. So do keep an eye out on your inboxes for when we announce the launch of that, and there'll obviously be webinars as well at the same time. I'm not going to labour too much on this slide. You can see for yourself, it's quite a wide range of customers. This is just a selection of some of our key customers. But yeah, you see we have finance, gaming, e-commerce, telecoms. Yeah, we even have VMware as a customer now as well. So let's quickly review the two, soon to be 3 products that we offer. So Tungsten Clustering, the main topic of today's slide, it truly is one of, if not the best clustering solution on the market. We've learned, as we've learned already, we sit happily in the cloud, on-premise, or a mixture of the two, and I'll go into the technology a little bit on the next couple of slides. Tungsten Replicator, well, this is a key part of our clustering solution, but it can also be installed as a standalone product. The Replicator itself is an incredibly powerful tool that will enable you to not only move your data effortlessly, but also heterogeneously in real time. We can also combine the standalone Replicator with your cluster. So you could have a separate replication stream out of your cluster into an analytical engine, for example, such as Hadoop or Vertica. Finally, the new soon-to-be released product, Tungsten Cloud. This will combine everything we've discussed, but as a simple, easy-to-use, managed solution. So do keep an eye out for more announcements when we launch. So let's just quickly go through the cluster a little bit more. So this really is the bread and butter solution for Continuent, and key to this solution is providing continuous operations for your business. Okay, you've heard me say it quite a bit on this webinar already, and I'll probably say it a bit more before the end as well, but it really is one of the strengths that we have here, giving you the ability to perform your maintenance with 0 downtime. And we understand that even the slightest of outages can be very, very costly for many companies. So your databases, well, that can be Community Edition, it can be Enterprise Edition, it can be Percona, it can be MariaDB. You can have one cluster, you can have multiple clusters, they can be in the same city, the same country, different countries, opposite sides of the world. As long as your network is open and they can talk to each other, we'll get your data where you want it to go. Furthermore, we can enable SSL on every endpoint, so you get that peace of mind and security as well. So what else? Automatic failover, managed switches, read-write splitting with the intelligent proxy layer. So this layer here, the connectors, they will decide where to send your connectivity. This is showing just a single cluster, but if you imagine multi-site, you have 2 of these. So yeah, the connectors will send your writes down to your master, reads, load balance across your slaves. There are many different configurations here for these connectors as well, from basic pass-through to the more intelligent read-write splitting levels as well. So unlike some clustering solutions, you don't need to make any significant application changes, and we don't sit within the database per se. As you can see on this diagram, we have the manager and the replicator. These processes sit on the same host as your database, but we actually sit outside of the database. We're mining the binary logs, we're monitoring the MySQL processes, but we're not actually going into the database. And we just move that data. We extract from the replicator. The replicators extract from the binary logs. We extract full transactions. We're transactionally consistent. We pull that down into our own native format, or what we call THL, transaction history log. The replicators take that, use it, and apply it back into your targets. The managers, they're the brains of the cluster. They make all the decisions regarding the role the node is going to take, handling the failover switches, automatic recovery where possible, and obviously all of the communications to all of the nodes, the other managers, and up to the connector as well. Although I haven't touched on it, we have a little graphic here, just a small screenshot of a graphical user interface that we launched last year. This gives you the ability to consolidate all of your clusters into a single view, whether they're connected or not. So it doesn't matter how many clusters you've got in your business, you can bring them all into this one simple graphical view. Nice, easy, point and click. You can switch your masters around, you can isolate nodes, do all of that just with the click of a mouse. So as we mentioned on the previous slide, and we discussed with regards to NewVoiceMedia today, multi-site, multi-master enables you to geographically locate your clusters close to your customers. So you provide that fast read-write access where it matters most, whilst maintaining all of those HA and DR features of a standard cluster. So this represents a typical two-cluster configuration. So we have the connectors, they're associated with each cluster, and they direct the writes to the master of that cluster. They balance the reads across the local slaves. So this topology was our first kind of venture into multi-site, so multi-site, multi-master. It's still a very solid industry-proven solution today, but this is particularly suited to situations where perhaps you have low bandwidth links between your remote clusters. So where this link here is potentially a little bit slower than you would like because maybe you don't have control over it. Maybe you have one cluster here over in the US and this cluster is in Asia, and this link between the two is pretty slow. This is a good good solution for that, and that's because these clusters are a lot more loosely coupled together in terms of the architecture. The manager layers are more independent to each cluster, and there's and with that is lower traffic requirements. If you're in a better situation for your links here between your clusters, then we have what came out last year in our V6 release was our Composite multi-master. So multi-site, multi-master provided the foundation for this, and then we built on top of it, we improved on it, and we made things a lot more tightly coupled together. So all them in this situation, you still have your two independent clusters, and they work in exactly the same way. All the features, the failovers, are all exactly the same. But the managers have a much wider view. So the managers and the replicators and the connectors have a complete view of the entire estate. So whether this is 2 clusters, 4 clusters, or 6 clusters, you can see everything from anywhere. So that gives you a lot more control. The main thing here of note is the fact the connectors, because these connectors can see everything. If this connector lost complete sight of this cluster, it would automatically route to another cluster. And you know, furthermore, if you have 4 clusters in your estate, you can actually configure this connector to say, you know what, if I lose my local cluster, I want to go to cluster Y, I don't want to go to cluster X. So you've got complete control and configuration of that. And yeah, because we have this more consolidated view, you could log into this particular slave, connect to the cluster control here, and you can control any cluster, any node, any replication service within the entire estate. So it's a much more advanced version of our multi-site, multi-master. So our standalone replicator, it really is a powerful tool in its own right. It's core to the cluster. We need it to move the data around, but as I alluded to earlier on, it can also function as a standalone replication tool, also as a heterogeneous replication tool. So we can move data from your cluster or a standalone MySQL instance, including Amazon Aurora, Amazon RDS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. We can extract out of there. And we can replicate in real time to all of the targets you see here, Oracle, Postgres, Hadoop, etc. And we replicate that in real time as well. So this can really expand your business benefits. It enables easier access to data for different teams within your business, and it can open up all manner of other opportunities. So let's recap the key benefits. I'm not going to go through all the details. There's a lot of information on these slides. Think of this as more of a summary of everything we've discussed so far. But the key takeaways, so clustering solution, we provide the business with continuous operations. Yeah, I've said it again. Full HA and DR capabilities with immediate automatic failover. A graphical GUI to easily manage and control all of your clusters in one place. Simple workflows for zero downtime maintenance, the ability to move the master with one command or a single click in the GUI, and full compatibility with all varieties of MySQL without any re-engineering of your applications required. Multi-master cluster configurations allow your geographically distributed writes, giving even higher availability, as there is no failover required between clusters. We bring your data closer to your clients, providing lower latency response times. easily add more clusters to scale your operations. You can deploy in the cloud, VMs, bare metal, on-prem, mix and match to suit. We can also assist with the easy migration from cloud to cloud, such as out of Amazon and into Google, or we can even configure Multimaster to span and mix of these providers so you don't get that lock into one specific cloud provider. The intelligent proxy, the connectors, many different configurations to give you the load balance of clients, the automatic rerouting following a node failover, and the intelligent read-write splitting, and then advanced replication from MySQL to a range of heterogeneous targets in real time with a range of advanced filtering options. We don't consider the replicator an ETL tool in the true sense of the word. However, the filters we have can certainly provide some significant capabilities to suit most ETL type requirements, and unlimited data transfers as well. So we don't charge based on the amount of data or the number of rows you are replicating. It's just completely unlimited, and you're in complete control. Because of the nature in which the software operates, giving you full control where you run it and against what kind of MySQL you want, you can benefit from significant cost savings in a number of areas. You can optimize costs by selecting the most cost-effective cloud environment, for example. You'll benefit from greater uptime, reduce the amount of time your DBAs spend on recovery operations, freeing them up for other activities. And with full MySQL support, you can be up and running in minutes as well, using your existing database infrastructure. And finally, we truly do provide the best 24/7 customer experience. Our teams of support engineers, all highly qualified with many cumulative years of MySQL DBA experience. A subscription to the product comes with unlimited 24/7 support as standard, and we have response times for our urgent requests averaging less than 5 minutes. So our final recap, what have we learned? Well, you're protecting your data and your business, ensuring you can provide your customers with the best experience. You're saving money by protecting your business from long periods of outages, continuous operations again, and you can move your data in real time and make it available for a variety of business use cases. You can rest assured that we are available 24/7, 365 worldwide to support you. So if you're interested in a demo or POC, or you're interested in learning more, reach out to us. We've got a wealth of knowledge amongst our entire team, and we have plenty of online documentation, white papers, past webinars, trainings available for you to read and watch on demand. And a lot of the training material also goes into the technical aspects of the cluster in a much deeper level. So Q&A, let's see if we have any questions come through. Okay, one question here about clustering and Amazon. Can we use this to cluster RDS? I actually had the same question last week on our real-time analytics webinar. So the simple answer is no. I'll just expand on that a little bit more. RDS and Aurora, because they're managed databases, we don't have access to the underlying host, so we can't install the manager component or the replicator to control the nodes locally. Also with RDS and Aurora, you have to access the binary log changes slightly differently, and also less privileged accounts. So RDS and Aurora, they're perfectly valid targets. You can replicate out of a cluster into RDS or Aurora, or you could use the standalone replicator to replicate from and to RDS and Aurora as a standalone configurations, but because of the limitations, we can't yet cluster around these. But it is something we're currently investigating. It's on our roadmap. I know our development team are making quite good progress. So perhaps look out for a future release, future webinars where we may be able to put some clustering around your RDS or your Aurora. Is it easy to convert from using native replication to your clustering solution? Yes, actually that's very easy. So in my previous role, prior to joining Continuent, I went through this exact process when we launched our own multi-site, multi-master cluster. Very easy, very straightforward. Actually, I think maybe last year, I think I presented a training webinar that actually takes you through the steps to do it. Half-hour webinar. The fact I did it in half an hour, hopefully that shows you how quick it can be and easy it is. So have a look online. We've got some documentation on our doc pages as well about that. Another one here on conflict resolution. What conflict resolution do you have? This is a very good question. It's one that we get asked a lot. It's quite a burning topic. So within the cluster itself and within the code, the replicators, we made a decision to avoid any form of programmatic conflict resolution. It's an incredibly complex thing to code for. No two applications are the same, and the replicators don't necessarily know your business or your business rules. So we could make a decision which we think is correct, and we could program that, but then maybe your business will say, actually, that's completely wrong. You've just ruined our data, or it could be right for someone else. So we're always reviewing various options for some basic rudimentary customer-driven rules, but it's still very, very much in the early planning stages. But what we do provide, we look at best practices to avoid conflicts, such as ensuring any auto increments are offset if you're using them for primary keys, or if your application allows split the application processes. So for example, if your applications, your databases are serving customers globally, then you could choose to only drive customers that are connecting via the States into the US cluster and via Asia into the Asia cluster. And if their data is unique to their location, then hopefully that will avoid any conflicts. But it's a very difficult one a very difficult challenge, but we are constantly looking into it. That's it. I don't see any more questions. Yeah, I don't see any more there. Okay. Let's move on to this last slide. So that's the end of the webinar. If at the end of the webinar you decide or suddenly think of a question that you think, oh, I wish I'd asked this question, our details are here. My name is Chris Parker. My email there, feel free to reach out and send your questions in, or reach out to anyone on here, and we'll be glad to hear from you and talk to you more. If you're interested in POCs and demos, then give us a shout. We'd love to hear from you. So with that, I thank you for joining and listening to me today. I hope you have a good and pleasant day wherever you are. Thank you and goodbye.